Hello, this is Josie McConnell with my podcast. I chose to do my podcast on being inside the minds of teens and tweens. Now, I do apologize because my nose is stuffy because I have a virus in my sinuses, so if you hear me coughing, I apologize for it, but we'll just push through. Now, there have been studies that clearly show the increased traumatization of high school students in the wake of the pandemic. Some solutions are introduced, such as showing kids their progress, trying to understand their trauma, building their confidence, breathing exercises, and teacher grading at the door. And teacher grading at the door just means extra feedback that the student can give the teacher can give the student at the door, so it can give them a little bit more individual help and understand some problems that just that student might be having. Engage kids in your class. There has to be ownership for the student's own work. This is going to introduce them to their lifetime of having to pay for all the actions that they do themselves, and this has to show them that whatever work they're willing to put in, that is going to come around whether good or bad, and it's going to be that way the rest of their life. Before taking care of students, teachers actually need to take care of themselves. A popular teacher mental health check during the pandemic was actually phone therapy. Trying different things to take care of yourself is important because it doesn't matter how many things don't work for you, but when you find something that does work for you and works well. We can't just ignore these problems in our classrooms, affecting both our students and our teachers. The top 2 research solutions include coffee talk. This basically means background noise. Having background noise has proven to keep people focused and limit their unconscious wandering of the mind, which can distract them from their task at hand. Praise to criticism ratio. There need to be at least 3 positive feedbacks for every negative comment or thought. This goes for both self-assessing and teacher or peer assessing. Now we're going to move on to Black teens and what they have to deal with in the school system that might be different than other students. Black teens deal with racism and unconscious bias, which can be a toxic learning situation. Adultification is a way of understanding how Black girls are seen in a classroom setting. This can include putting yourself in their shoes and receiving the feedback and/or punishments that they receive from their teachers. This can help you figure out if you think that the punishments and treatment that they're receiving is fair. Black girls have different expectations and are therefore treated differently than other students. Some areas that can cause for bullying or unfair punishment include how they dress, their facial expressions, or their tone of voice, which can receive more hyper-awareness than other students, and it can make it easier to punish Black girls for not acting like other students. This is an inherited, or actually historic behavior, because people have acted this way for centuries because of slavery, inequality, and suffrage trying to earn the right to vote. It's causing these girls to be punished for who they are as a person. Teachers need to understand history and what causes inequality in order to stop it. We have to be active. We have to try to understand all students, not just Black students, and put ourselves in their shoes in order to understand them. Be able to honestly criticize yourself, because if you are one of those teachers that is punishing students because of the way that they dress or the way that they act that might be different than other people, then you are the problem, and you need to be able to criticize yourself and realize that. During the pandemic, there were many studies done on the after effects of students and whether students are being social or not. Looking at all students, all kids dealt with isolation on different levels. Looking at kids who fall between the extroverts and the introverts can show you who is being most affected by the pandemic. These kids on the middle ground may need to interact and socialize because they will not seek to do so on their own, and they also won't seek for ways to deal with just being with themselves, such as an introvert. 1 in 4 kids deal with mental health issues. We want to normalize kids being able to reach out and need help, because otherwise they're not going to feel like they have a support group, and they're not going to be able to reach out to their teachers and parents if they need help. Parents and teachers, on the other hand, need to be able to spot mental illnesses in order to keep their students and children safe. Some kids may have very few coping strategies and may therefore turn to self-harm. looking for anger, recklessness, and not being included in other kids' activities, in other words, just feeling like an outcast, it can indicate an unhealthy child, a mentally unhealthy child. Also, informing kids in knowing what depression and self-harm are so they can possibly self-diagnose and be able to reach out can help them realize that they don't need to figure everything out for themselves, but can lean on their parents and teachers for support and help if they need it. Which makes it so important that teachers and parents need to realize that they are that kid's support group and be able to be a good support group. Now, from a student's perspective, watching their parents argue or deal with a problem or not know how to deal with a problem can impact the student greatly in the ways that they deal with their problems. So parents, after you acknowledge a negative problem, don't just stop. Talk about what you're going to do to cope with it or solve it in a healthy way, such as, I was having problems at work, so I'm going to talk to my boss, or I was having problems with the car. It was really annoying, but I'm going to work on it myself or take it to a shop. Things like that just show the student that you're going to cope with this in a healthy way and be able to manage it by yourself, but you're also going to be asking for help from other people. Big adjustments for kids coming back to school is that they have a smaller attention span. They're less responsive and they're unprepared for their social school day. Life is a lot different than graduating high school kids expect. Taking a gap year has changed because of the pandemic. This is a time off before they go into a rigorous college environment. A gap year can include traveling, exploring, and getting real-life experience before their typical four-year college. It's important for parents to understand that this doesn't indicate a lazy kid, because some kids just don't know what path they want to follow. Being able to travel and experience real life before they go into a college setting can help them figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life, which is really important. Parents need to be able to support their student getting the most out of college or a gap year, or whatever their student or child chooses to do. Educators can help the teens get ready for what's ahead of them by making sure that their students can effectively learn remotely, and to think outside the box to find the path they like. Understanding that all kids are different, and some might want work experience before college life, is really important, because we can't just treat every kid the same, because they're not the same. Goals. Now, lastly, goals that a teen should have before they take this new focus is looking back at high school and finding what they did well, and summarize what their current skills are. They can also think about what interests them, but they might not be especially good at, which is okay. They also need to value real-world experience, because it's so important to learn from those that are working to make a living, and those who are in the real world. One last thing, at the end of the day, skills are just as valuable as grades or test scores. Only you can choose what is right for you, and it's your life, so you need to live it. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. I'm sorry about the coughing. It does hurt my throat, so thank you for sticking in there. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.